Tukaram was born in the village of Dehu on the banks of the Indrayani River. A farmer and trader, not a Brahmin, not a scholar, not someone the religious establishment of his time would have considered qualified to speak about God. In 1629, a devastating famine swept through Maharashtra. Tukaram's first wife died, his young son died, his business collapsed. He was left with nothing except an overwhelming love for Vitthal, the form of Vishnu worshipped at Pandharpur that had been with him since childhood, and now, in the wreckage of everything else, was all that remained. The poems began to come, not because he sought them. He felt, as he later wrote, that Vitthal himself was singing through him, that he was not the author, but merely the instrument through which something was being expressed. He wrote in Marathi, the language of farmers and washerwomen and weavers, the language of ordinary people who had never had access to scriptures because scriptures had always been in Sanskrit, and Sanskrit belonged to the Brahmin priests. The priests were furious. A scholar named Rameshwar Bhatt, backed by the local authorities, summoned Tukaram and made his position clear. A man of Tukaram's caste had no right to compose devotional poetry or to speak to God in his own language and expect to be heard. Tukaram said, "These are not my verses. This is not my own language. It was Lord Vitthal himself who ordered me to write them." Rameshwar Bhatt was not convinced. He ordered Tukaram to throw every manuscript into the Indrayani River. Then he paused and smiled. "But if these poems truly came from God," he said, "God will restore them." Tukaram collected every manuscript he had ever written. He tied a heavy stone to the bundle and threw everything he had created into the river. Then he walked to his family temple and sat down. He sat before Vitthal and placed the matter in his Lord's hands. That was all he could do. So that was all he did. He fasted, he prayed, he invoked the name of Vitthal for 13 days. On the 13th day, Vitthal appeared in a dream to a devotee in the village. "Go to the river now, retrieve Tukaram's manuscripts and bring them to him at the temple." The next morning, a crowd gathered on the banks of the Indrayani and found the manuscripts there, floating on the surface of the water, perfectly dry, as if the river had never touched them. Word spread through the village. Some who had mocked him that day came to the river and fell silent. Rameshwar Bhatt had set the terms himself, and God had answered in kind. Tukaram went on to compose over 4,000 Abhangas, short devotional poems of extraordinary beauty, all in Marathi, all addressed directly to Vitthal with the simplicity and intimacy of a conversation between old friends. He is considered the greatest poet in the history of the Marathi language. Tukaram had lost everything the world could take from him. The famine took his wife, his son, his livelihood. The priests took his manuscripts. And what remained, each time, was the love. Not because Tukaram was beyond grief, but because the love was deeper than the grief, older than the loss, more certain than anything the world had taken or could take. He tied a stone to the bundle of everything he had written and threw it in the river with full faith. That is not resignation. That is the most demanding kind of trust there is. I'll leave you with one question today. What would you offer to the river if you truly trusted it would come back? This has been The Long Thread. Ancient stories for the present moment. If this story stayed with you, follow the long thread and wake up to a new one tomorrow.